She boarded the plane with nothing but hope, a small bag, and her baby cradled tightly in her arms. It was supposed to be a routine flight, a simple journey toward a new chapter. But within minutes, the atmosphere turned hostile. Stares sharpened, whispers spread, and the thin mask of professionalism began to crack. Then came a single act, brazen, humiliating, violent, that would change everything. What this flight attendant didn't know was that the woman she targeted wasn't powerless at all, and the truth waiting to be revealed would shake the entire airline. Her name was Maya, a young black mother, juggling sleepless nights and endless responsibilities, yet carrying herself with quiet strength. For her, this trip wasn't luxury, it was necessity. Her husband was waiting in another city, and this flight meant reuniting their family after months apart. With her infant nestled against her chest, Maya tried to blend into the polished rhythm of the terminal, where business travelers hurried and attendants smiled with rehearsed perfection. But there was something different about the way eyes lingered on her. A pause too long at security, a forced smile at the gate, small, almost invisible signs that whispered she did not belong. She ignored them, focusing on her baby's gentle breathing, convincing herself that she was just imagining it. When she stepped into the cabin, the air smelled of coffee and fresh linen. Rows of crisp uniforms and glossy brochures promised comfort and care. Yet beneath the shine, she felt a chill, like stepping onto a stage where she wasn't welcome. Passengers adjusted their bags as she passed, eyes flickering from her skin to her child. She kept her head high, refusing to let doubt take root. Still, somewhere deep inside, a knot formed. Something about this flight felt heavier than usual. She could not have known that what started as a journey of hope would soon turn into a public test of dignity, one that would expose the cruel face of prejudice in its rawest form. At first it was subtle, a delay at the aisle when Maya tried to reach her seat, as if her very presence slowed the flow of passengers. A glance from the flight attendant, sharp, lingering, disapproving, that stung more than words ever could. She tried to shrug it off, rocking her baby gently, whispering, calm into her own chest as much as into the child's. But the moments piled up. When she placed her small diaper bag in the overhead compartment, she felt the tension around her. Other passengers' bags were bulky, oversized, yet hers, neatly packed, was the one questioned. The attendant's eyes scanned it with suspicion, lips pressed into a thin line, hands lingering as though searching for a reason to deny her. Finally, with a snap of authority, the attendant shoved it in place as though doing her a reluctant favor. Maya sat down, heart heavy. She thought it would end there, but prejudice, once emboldened, rarely retreats. As the plane began boarding, the same attendant returned, towering over her with an air of possession, checking her seatbelt, her baby's blanket, her every move, as if waiting for the smallest misstep. Around them, passengers shifted uncomfortably, watching but saying nothing. Silence became its own form of betrayal. The baby whimpered, and Maya instinctively reached for a bottle. That's when it escalated. The attendant frowned, accusing her, with just a look, as if feeding her child was somehow against the invisible rules. Every action was scrutinized, the way she rocked the baby, the way she tucked the cloth at the child's chin, even the way she adjusted her seat. The hum of the engines built a steady rhythm beneath her fear. With each vibration, the scrutiny grew sharper. It wasn't about policies. It was about her, her skin, her presence, her refusal to shrink even when humiliation pressed down like weight. Then came the whispers. 2 rows back, a couple leaned toward each other, casting glances that slid like knives across her skin. A man in a suit coughed disapprovingly when the baby cried, though other children made noise without consequence. The air thickened with judgment, and Maya's chest tightened. She wanted to disappear, yet she held her child closer, her dignity, wrapped around them both like fragile armor, The attendant's steps echoed each time she walked past, heels striking with precision, stopping always a beat too long at Maya's row. It wasn't service. It was surveillance. And with every pass, Maya felt the inevitable coming, the moment when all the unspoken hostility would boil over into something undeniable. Passengers avoided her eyes now. They knew. They felt it. Yet none intervened. Prejudice thrives not only in cruelty, but in cowardice. The silence grew louder than the engines. Then, as the plane prepared for takeoff, Maya adjusted her baby's blanket, careful, deliberate. The infant fussed, and she shifted in her seat, her body tense. That single motion was all it took. The attendant swooped down, voice sharp though no words were spoken in our telling. Just the posture, the glare, the suddenness that made Maya's heart seize. Her authority radiated, hands moving with aggression as if daring Maya to resist. In that instant, the hum of the plane seemed to pause, the cabin shrinking into a stage where every gaze was fixed on her. The baby whimpered again, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. Something irreversible was about to happen, something that would strip away the mask of civility once and for all, and it was coming fast. It happened in a blur, one of those moments where time slows down, but every detail cuts sharp. The attendant leaned in too close, eyes flashing with disdain, and then, without warning, her hand lashed out. The sound of the slap cracked through the cabin like a gunshot. Maya's head jerked sideways, her baby startled into a terrified cry. For a split second, the entire plane froze. Coffee cups stilled mid-air, conversations died mid-sentence, and dozens of eyes locked onto a scene that should never have happened. The sting on her cheek was nothing compared to the searing humiliation. She had done nothing but hold. Her child, nothing but exist in a space where some believed she didn't belong. And now, in front of strangers, she had been reduced to a spectacle. Passengers shifted in their seats, torn between outrage and silence. Some raised their phones, recording in trembling hands. Others looked away, shame etched across their faces. The baby's wail filled the void, raw and piercing, demanding justice in a way words never could. Then, everything shifted. The attendants, who once looked smug, now paled, whispering frantically into radios. A murmur spread like wildfire, confusion, disbelief, sudden fear. Maya didn't yet understand why the balance of power in that cabin had flipped so fast. She only saw the sudden deference, the scramble to correct what could no longer be undone. Somewhere behind the curtain of authority, truth was unraveling. The airline, the very company whose uniform had just delivered violence, was bound by more than customer service. Because Maya's husband was not just another passenger waiting at their destination. He was the man who owned the skies they flew through. And the fallout of this slap would not be quiet nor forgotten. The engines roared louder, but the true turbulence had already begun. The slap itself faded, but the weight of it lingered long after the plane landed. Maya sat in silence, her cheek burning, her baby finally soothed against her chest. But the shift in the cabin was undeniable. Passengers who had looked away now whispered in shock as the truth surfaced. The airline scrambled, managers rushing, apologies spilling, consequences already being drafted behind closed doors. The very attendant who had wielded authority like a weapon now stood stripped of it, her actions immortalized on phones and destined for headlines. For Maya, no apology could erase the sting of that moment. Yet she did not leave the plane defeated. She left as a reminder, living proof of how dignity endures even when prejudice tries to tear it down. And when her husband stepped forward, the truth of who he was forced the airline to confront more than a scandal. It forced them to confront the culture that allowed such hatred to take root in the first place. Policies were rewritten, training was mandated, careers were ended. But even more important, conversations ignited. among the passengers who witnessed it, among those who saw the footage later, and among countless strangers who recognized in her story a reality far too familiar. Because this was never just about one woman on one plane. It was about a system that makes moments like this possible. A system that tells black mothers to brace themselves even in the spaces meant to serve them. And so the question remains, how many more times must someone's dignity be shattered before silence breaks? Before bystanders choose courage over comfort? Before justice becomes more than reaction, it becomes prevention? This wasn't just Maya's story, it's ours to face.